I'm sitting here today below Oliver Dam on the Chattahoochee in the north part of Columbus, Georgia. Not here to fish, I'm actually here on a lunch break. There's some really cool little places you can walk down to the riverbank along both sides of the river and just kind of chill out a little bit, be on the water instead of sitting in the city. And this is one of them. So Oliver Dam is one of the older dams on the Chattahoochee River. I'm not 100% sure exactly when it was built, but you can clearly see just from this video, you know, that this is an old style of dam. We're looking at the powerhouse right there. The rest of the dam goes off towards Alabama in that direction. You can see the beginning of the spill gates right there. It's the way all dams, at least in this part of the country, are set up. You have a powerhouse on one side, and the other side you have the spill gates. If there's a lock involved, and there's not in this case, it's usually on the side of the spill gates. But this is a stretch of Chattahoochee that is the bottom of the fall line. And when you look around here and you see all the rock and you see the rock walls over there, this is of course an artificial channel that was chopped out when they built the dam to have a place to generate power from. And you see I walk over here a little bit, and so I'm looking downstream now, and you can pretty much see, you know, look how narrow and straight this channel is. It's also quite deep. I've shocked below here in a boat before. It's 25, 30, even 40 feet deep in places here, and that's not natural. The river's not usually that deep. So they chopped this out years and years ago, you know, when they built the dam, in order to have a clear path of water when they generate. And they piled the rock up along here, which you can see. So, and it doesn't look like it. A lot of this rock looks natural because it is so old. It's probably been here close to 100 years. We're reaching that point in America's history where a lot of our dams and reservoirs are starting to get closer and closer to their centennial. The dam building of large hydroelectric dams really started taking off in the 1930s as part of the New Deal by FDR to try to provide for people during the Depression, the Tennessee Valley Authority being one of the programs under that act. And so, you know, here we are in 2025, and next year, if I'm not mistaken, next year Lake Martin will have its 100th anniversary. So that's one of the oldest dams here, and Bartlett's Ferry, I think, upstream of here, a couple dams away, is about that same age. But at any rate, the point is that a lot of these dams are getting old. They're much older than our road systems in a lot of cases, especially here in the south. And of course they're, you know, having problems, and that's what this crane is there for. They've been having some issues with the Oliver Dam for a while, and it makes you a little nervous, especially if you live below these dams, about what's going on. This is a private dam. It's owned by Georgia Power. These dams are regulated. They have operating licenses. They're regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, known as FERC, and they issue these dams and the operators licenses for a set number of years. I don't remember exactly when FERC was created, but most of these dams were already built when it was created. So the early licenses were really long, like 40, 50 years sometimes. And it basically lays out how the dam's going to be operated, and you know, what the water levels of the reservoir is going to be, and how much the flow is going to vary below the dam, and all kinds of things, honestly. How the recreational areas will be taken care of. It's a very long and involved process. A lot of them have been relicensed since then. The relicenses are usually about 30, 35 years. And a lot of these dams have been licensed yet again. And now they're getting more like 20, 25-year licenses, because during the licensing process is the best chance of having the federal government tell these private operators, you know, what they need to fix, how they need to change their operations, if there's any kind of environmental issues with you know, water flows or poor DO, this poor dissolved oxygen in the discharge or whatever. Your chance to have them fix it for the next 20 plus years is during the relicensing process. Whereas life continues to change, they're recognizing that having really, really long licenses, while it's great for the operators, is not so great for the regulators, and so they're shortening them with each iteration, from what I can tell. But this one along with the couple above it were relicensed, I think about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, something like that. They're probably getting close to time for another look. But that's for private dams. It's worth noting that federal dams do not have any such process. You know, notably the ones owned by, say, Bureau of Land Management or the Corps of Engineers or TVA. They don't have to go through this process. And the federal government doesn't really have much of a handle on changing the way things get operated in these dams. So it's not quite the same for federal dams, but private dams do have a regular process where they get relicensed. And once they are relicensed, changing their operating structure is really rare and difficult to accomplish. To reopen the license, FERC really doesn't want to do that. They're, like all agencies, understaffed, even before current events, and overworked, and, you know, huge backlog of dams, because there's thousands and thousands of private hydro dams in this country, and so they're always in the process of relicensing probably several dozen of these a year. So, you know, barring some major issue with a dam, you know, environmentally speaking, one of the only things that can really cause a license to get reopened would be an Endangered Species Act situation, where, you know, there's an endangered fish below here, and it's, you know, shown to be adversely impacted by the dam operation. That's a very strong piece of legislation, and it could cause these dams to get the dam to get licensed to be modified. But that hasn't happened here. You know, we don't really have any endangered species in this part of the Chattahoochee. Probably, if we did, they would have all been extirpated long ago, because it's been so highly altered. But it is a lovely September day, a bit warmer than usual here below Oliver. There are shoal bass in this stretch of the river. Used to be more of them. There's not so many as there used to be, but they're still here, holding on. And this is pretty much as far south as they get in the Chattahoochee Basin.